Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of, educating your child in the UK. And today we have Neil Herrington from the Cognita Group of Schools, and we're going to be talking about his group and the schools that he represents. So, really, the idea of this webinars and podcast is really to bring information to our community of parents who might be considering schools in the UK or other parts of the world for their children. And it's really important that you're informed so that you can make the right decision for your family and for your children. And there's some unique perspectives that we are going to touch on today, and Neil is going to go into that further. For anyone who's just maybe seeing or hearing from me for the first time, my name is Yeti Williams, and I'm the founder and CEO of Lagos Moms. I'm a parenting coach, and my role really is to help parents make the best decisions when it comes to raising their children to thrive in the future. So, with that said, let's bring Neil on. Neil, please introduce yourself and what you do and where you work.
Thanks, Yeti. Yeah, great to be here. My name is Neil Herrington, and I'm head of international student recruitment for Cognita. So, Cognita is a private day schools group. We own and operate 29 private day schools across 40 sites in the UK and 100 schools around the world globally. And so, my role is really to help families, help Nigerian parents um, choose the best school within the group, support them through the admissions process, and then if they need help with things like visas and immigration, then we're able to give some advice and in some cases as well sponsor international students as well and support parents with their visas.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. That's a lot of school, 40 sites in the UK.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, 29 schools across 40 sites. So yeah, very large group. Um, we've got schools in central London, Greater London, and then other parts of England and Wales. So we go as far as Huddersfield in Yorkshire in the north of England. We go as far west as Plymouth in Devon in the southwest of England, and we go to South Wales as well. So yeah, a range of locations, and that's what I think many families find useful and attractive because we've got that range, we've got that diversity. So schools are diverse in terms of their location. Obviously, the further you move from central London, the more affordable our schools become. So a school in South Wales could be about half the price of a school in central London, but still deliver the same academic excellence, similar academic outcomes. We're diverse in age range as well. So some of our schools are what we call prep schools. So they prepare students for senior school. And then other schools go all the way through up to 18 years old and offer A levels or the IB diploma. So yeah, a range there. Formally, we're a non-selective schools group. So we work with students of high ability and students who need more support as well. And we're able to do that through offering very small classes, small class sizes. Um, but some schools will be better suited to certain student profiles. So some schools will require students to have really high levels of English. Other schools will have English additional English teachers to support international students with things like that. Some schools will be very academically demanding. Other schools will be able to take students of more mixed ability and incorporate them into the school and teach them alongside the students of high ability as well. So yeah, a real diversity of location, price, age range, and selectivity, if you like.
Right. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. We had talked a little bit before this call about, one of the unique perspectives that Cognita offers a family who's looking to have their child school in the UK, but not necessarily have to choose boarding as the only option. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I think Nigeria has a long history of sending students to British boarding schools, and I think the boarding school system is really well understood in Nigeria. Where I think people would be excited to learn about other routes is around the day school option with the parent of a child student visa. So when I was in Lagos in January, um, I realized that yeah, a lot of people don't know about this opportunity yet, and they were quite excited to hear about it when I spoke to them. So basically, if a family has a child aged between 4 and 11 years old, as well as Cognita sponsoring the child on a child student visa, we can support one of the parents to join the child in the UK while they're at a day school on the parent of a child student visa route. And again, if you've got 3 or 4 children, as long as your youngest child is aged sort of between 4 and 11, even if the elder children are, 12, 14, 16, it's fine. The family can stay together because you've got that younger child aged between 4 and 11. So rather than sending children to a boarding school and the parents remaining in Nigeria, um, one of the parents, often the mother, but not always, can travel with the children, can buy or rent a house near the school. The children go to the school as day pupils, and the parent stays, at home in England. The other parent can travel in and out between Nigeria and England, say on a tourist visa or on a standard visitor visa. Um, Obviously, they can spend the holidays together. But it's quite an attractive alternative if you don't want to send your children away to boarding school. If you want to stay with your children, then yeah, the child student visa route alongside the parent of a child student visa is a really exciting option, I think, and one that many families I spoke to were keen to find out more about. There are some restrictions with it. So, as I said, only one parent can come with the children on that route. The other parent needs to remain in the home country and maintain a household in that country. And the parent who comes to England can't work, can't get a job in the UK. They're there to look after the children while the children are having their day school education. But again, if they, if they have some consultancy work or work that they do in Nigeria that they can do remotely from the UK, then that would be fine. I think that wouldn't cause any problems.
Fantastic. And how long will this type of visa typically last? Is it for the length of time the child is in school or by an
Yeah,
age?
the visa will remain until the youngest child celebrates their 12th birthday. As soon as that youngest child is 12, then the parent of a child student visa route ends. Um, so yeah, if you've got several children, then you could potentially see your eldest children all the way through to 18 onto university,
Mm.
and just remain with your younger child until their 12th birthday.
And just to be clear, what this visa is just it's a visa that allows the parent to live here to um basically take care of their children while they're in school in a day school. The visa does not have any route to citizenship or permanent residence.
That's right. Yeah, it's purely to help the parent to live with their children in the UK, and while the children go to a day school. Yeah, yeah,
And it's for any of the schools you had mentioned, your 29 schools
yeah.
across the UK.
So exactly. Yeah. So 29 schools, 40 sites, and we have one license under the name Cognita Schools Limited, and all 29 schools are listed on that license.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can sponsor students on child student and student visas at any of our schools, which means we
Okay.
can support the parent on a parent of a child student visa at any of those schools as well.
Now, I wanted to ask, what's the cost element of that, of this parent child visa?
So, as far as we're concerned, when we sponsor children on the child student visa, um, then we do ask that families pay the fee upfront, the annual fee upfront, along with an international deposit, which is equal to the cost of one term. And that is because, generally speaking, if the UK Visa and Immigration Authority see that a family have paid those fees up front and they don't owe us any money, then they're generally regarded as quite low risk visa applications, and we tend to get a very high success rate then when we support student visas. So there is that upfront cost in the first year. Other than that, the actual cost of the visa is just a few £100s. You need an NHS surcharge as well. So yeah, it's hundreds rather than thousands in order to pay the UK visa authorities to apply for that visa. Yeah,
Okay.
they will need to see that you've got enough money in the bank to live on, while you're maintaining a household in the UK while your children go to a day school. So you will
Mm.
need to have certain savings to be able to, yeah, demonstrate to the visa authorities that you've got the means to afford the cost of living in whichever city you're going to.
Right, right. Okay, I see. And if so, so let's say in a scenario where a family has four children and maybe it's the last two children that fall within this age group.
Yeah,
Um, in terms of applying for the visa, there's no challenge with if they have older children who are maybe in another school and not part of cognitive group of schools. Is that correct?
that's right. Yeah, if they're at another non-cognitive school and that school has a license to sponsor international students, then that you just prove that all of the children are of the same, come from the same parents,
Right.
and so you get the same consents from both parents,
Okay.
and the applications would be made together so that the visa officer could link the children with the parents, and consider them as one family.
Okay. Right. I think that's a very fascinating route for some parents to consider. I mean, I hadn't heard about it until I met you actually earlier
Yeah.
this year. So it's I'm
Well,
very interested to learn more and also to be bringing this information to our audience.
well, thanks for you and the Lagos Mums team for helping us spread the word.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right, great. I want us to move quickly into, because it's very unique, right? That you're a global group of schools, and that has to have certain benefits or certain advantages that, maybe we haven't considered. So I'd like you to talk through what some of the advantages are that you are part of a global group.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And being part of a group gives you certain advantages through scale, I would say.
Mm,
So to give you two examples, we take well-being really, really seriously. We have a global director of well-being who sits on the board, on the executive board for the global group, and her role is to measure and monitor and track improvements in well-being across students in all over 100 schools around the world. And so through that, the importance that you place on that, we're able to do some quite exciting things. So this last month, we've done some research with academics at the University of Cambridge and Harvard University, into screen time and how children engage with screen time, and what impact that has on their well-being and also on their learning as well. We were able
mm,
to speak to students in our schools around the world as part of that research. And so you get quite interesting, that scale, that number of students gives you really useful opportunities to do things like that, to engage with those universities, and to support not just the students, but the parents and the teachers in overseeing and helping improve the well-being. And the message that came out of that particular research was that students, do want help, do want guidance with managing their screen
mm.
time. It's not a case of just saying, you're spending too much time on your screen, do something else.
Right.
They want actual strategies. They want us to help them, to guide them. So I
Mm,
think well-being is a really important part of that, and we produce lots of free resources, for parents and for teachers out, within our group and beyond, if they wish to use them to
mm,
support those issues of well-being. Obviously, during the pandemic, it was really useful. There was a lot of focus on it, but this post-pandemic, there's still work that's being done to support that magic triangle of the student, the teachers, and the parents.
mm,
So well-being definitely. The other thing then is educational technology and digital learning. We all hear about AI, and how it's going to sort of take over the world and take our jobs and
mhm,
all that kind of stuff, and it can be very daunting. But
mm,
having this scale of schools and the management structure that oversees it means that we are able to make lots of investments and stay on the kind of front of the curve as
mm,
this educational technology revolution kind of sweeps in. So
mm,
we have digital learning advisors in each of our regions. Um, Again, not just to support the schools, but to support the students and the parents, but particularly the teachers, I would say, in how do you navigate your way through this? What technology is best for your school, for your catchment area, for the students in your care, and how can we enable you to use it in the classroom,
mm,
sharing that best practice across the group. So we do work with Century, an AI-powered educational tech provider, and so teachers are using that. Obviously, we want the focus to remain on high-quality teachers who we employ and recruit, but they are going to increasingly be supported, I think, through this technology. Um, and so, yeah, we've got the scale to be able to invest in that, to advise, and to make sure that we're using it in the best possible way. The other thing, quite simply during the pandemic, we realized that it was very hard to support students learning at home if they all had different devices with different software. So what
Mm-hmm.
we did was we invested in one-to-one devices for all students aged 7 and above enrolled in our schools. And then we were able to support that centrally, so there was a central IT team who could support them all on the same software and all on the same technology. And obviously, as a group, as a large global schools group, we were able to get a very good price for that.
Right.
So the scale of the group really comes into its own when it comes to things like technology and digital learning. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense. So in your view, should ChatGPT be banned in schools and in use of education, or should they be incorporated?
There's no point banning it because it's going to creep in anyway, and so it's far better again that people understand it, understand the benefits it offers, and not just to students but to teachers as well. But of course, at the same time, understand what the risks are, be that things like plagiarism, you know, false information being shared, that kind of thing, fake news, whatever you want to call it.
Right, right.
There are risks, but there are benefits as well. And so, again, the digital learning advisors within the group are very, very on top of this in terms of how teachers, how students can use it to their benefit, but also how to be mindful of the risks as well.
Absolutely. I think it's a really fascinating time, and it's not about whether it's good or bad. It's about how you use it and making sure that we're raising responsible digital citizens. That's one thing I talk about a lot in terms of my parenting coaching is that we have to raise responsible digital citizens. And similar to what you said earlier in terms of your research, we shouldn't assume because the children, Gen Z, are all tech savvy, means they know exactly how to use it appropriately. They still need the guidance, they need support, they need help with screen time. We can't just say, don't do it. What do you want them to do instead? So it's helping them figure out the right way to engage online.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. They are, like you say, it's how to be responsible digital citizens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. Fantastic. Thanks, Neil. So I also wanted to talk about the fact that, you are located in several countries. Obviously the UK is one of the regions that you have a lot of schools in, but you do have other locations as well. Can you talk a little bit about those and how a parent might want to consider some of those as well, or how it fits in?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, I work for Cognita Europe division. So
Okay.
we have schools in Switzerland, day schools again in Switzerland, quite a few schools in Spain, and Italy as well. And we've just bought our first school in the US in the last year. So York Prep School in New York City um, is our first school in the US. And then we have the Middle East division. So we've got 4 schools in Dubai right now. And I think Dubai is quite a popular destination for some Nigerian families. So again, very happy to link up Nigerian families with my colleagues in the Middle East. And then further afield in Asia, we have schools across Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand, and Vietnam, and then schools in South America as well, in Latin America. So places like Brazil, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico. So, yeah, a real range of locations, all day schools, as I say, all private day schools. But again, wherever you're going in the world, there's likely to be a Cognita school, and we'd be very happy to link you up with colleagues in that region if you'd like us to.
Fantastic. I'm just curious, is there any cross potential for cross learning? Like a student in school in Spain, can they switch to a cognitive school in
Very
Switzerland? I'm
much.
just curious.
Yeah. Yeah. So every year we welcome students from our schools in Spain who come and spend a bit of time in our UK schools. They're normally around sort of year 8, year 9, year 10 age, so kind of 12 to 14 typically. And they could spend a term or two, even up to an academic year with us. and take that learning and those experiences back to their schools in Spain. So that's quite popular. Every year we have groups from Chile, from our schools in Chile as well, who come for shorter placements. So they'll come, they'll do 2 weeks of intensive English with our English language school, which is called Ardmore. Um, then they'll do 2 weeks in a Cognita school in the UK. And they'll also have 2 weeks of sort of cultural activities as well. So it's a 6 week trip that we put on for them. But there is also lots of movement, you know, across the group. So we've had families enrolled at Cognita schools in Hong Kong who are moving to London, and you know, we've supported them to transfer into a school in the UK. And in other directions as well, families leaving the UK and going to Dubai, for example. So we do support families if they wish to stay within the group. It can be complicated sometimes because you know in the UK our schools are English national curriculum schools. They run the English national curriculum, and there's one school that offers the international baccalaureate. That's South Bank International School. And then in Asia we've got schools that run the American curriculum and the Australian curriculum, and
Mm-hmm.
you know many others as well. So sometimes you know we have to be careful moving students between curricula, but normally not an issue, particularly with the younger students. Then the other thing is staff. You know, there's a real focus, I think, on trying to retain the very best teaching staff you have at the moment. Some interesting things have happened, I guess, globally, but certainly that we're conscious of in the UK. That you know the pandemic has shown that there are alternatives to teaching careers if you want to kind of do a job that sits well with school hours. You know, in the past, there's been more female than male teachers in UK schools because, yeah, that work-life balance and the ability to take your children to school and collect them again. And now more people are realizing that, you know, working from home as we are today, Yeti,
Yeah.
is much easier, and you can live a much more flexible life and drop your children at school and pick them up and be involved in their school life, etc. So that there is a teacher shortage
Mm.
um, in the UK, or that it's certainly coming, and so you're having to work harder and harder to retain the very best teachers and keep them not just in your schools but in the industry.
Right.
Full stop. So being able to offer teachers a global career path and say, well, look, you can start in this school in the UK, you
Mm.
can move on to our school potentially, you know, in Switzerland or Dubai, um, and actually chart a global teaching career is a really, really attractive thing for many teachers and a great way of retaining the best teachers within the group. So I know that we've had teachers who worked at our school in Singapore, who then went on to help establish a school in Hong Kong, and then who've come back to another school of ours in Singapore again. We've had head teachers in the UK who've gone and run schools of ours in Spain, and then come back into other UK schools. So there is a global career path within the group, and that helps us, yeah, retain
Mm.
the best teachers, which you know is to everyone's advantage, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess it's easy to not think that the education space or teachers have also been positively impacted, I guess, by remote working. It's true. We've all seen the pandemic forced us to see that, you know what, we don't have to commute every day. So how does that, fit into some more traditional career paths that don't typically have that in there? So it's interesting you've talked about that and how that's a attractive option for parents. I mean, for teachers.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We all have to work harder to
Yeah.
recruit and retain the best teachers when there are so many more options, you know, available these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you're right. It's affected everybody.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Neil. I'm really enjoying this conversation. Thank you. So one more question so that we can start to wrap up is with the parent-child visa path,
Hmm.
what kind of support do you offer to those families who are then looking for housing, I guess, close to the schools?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we work really closely with the schools, and so if a family's moving to a particular area, say we have a school called Akeley Wood School in Milton Keynes.
Okay.
So I know that the school have, you know, relationships with local estate agents, real estate agents, So we can make introductions, we can advise, where does the school bus network
Okay.
reach, what neighborhoods does it reach within that community. Again, so families can make informed decisions, and we're not just leaving them in the lurch. We're making introductions. We're using our contacts to help them with all the other stuff as well. And then, we work quite closely with the corporate relocation sector. So a lot of our schools in London will receive students from through the corporate relocation sector. They'll be coming to London for 3 or 4 years before being sent on to a posting in another, international city somewhere.
Mm.
And so we share quite a lot of intelligence with them in terms of, is there enough housing available in the right parts of London at the right quality, the type of corporates that they're bringing in. Where are the easier areas to get suitable accommodation? Where is
Right.
there a shortage at the moment? So yeah, we do keep our ear to the ground. We share market intelligence with our friends in the corporate relocation sector. So yeah, we're able to give pretty good advice and support. And that's the same with visas as well. There is a member of my team, Tim, who is our UK Visa and Immigration Compliance Manager. And so, he will support you through the immigration process when we're sponsoring student visas. He won't just, give you the piece of paper and say off you go. We'll hold your hand throughout that process. Really, really trying to offer you as personalised a service as we can.
Fantastic. Well, great, great. Thanks so much, Neil, for taking the time to have a chat with us and the community as well. If you're going to just share one or two last words or tips based on the experience you've had, I guess also with Nigerian families over the last few years, a lot of things have obviously changed in terms of the economy and the world and post-pandemic and all of that. What would you say are two main tips you would share with a family who's considering, sending their child to school in the UK?
That's a good question. I think one of the reasons why we're keen to welcome all Nigerian families is that we are really aware, and I found this when I went to Lagos in January, how hardworking, how diligent, and how academically gifted Nigerian students are. We're aware that lots of Nigerian boys and girls become head boys and head girls in UK schools. So you have a great reputation. Schools like Nigerian students, because yeah, we're aware of the potential success that guys go on to achieve. So be confident. I would say you're welcomed. You're respected, and we hope to welcome more of you. In terms of tips and advice, I think don't always go with the usual suspects, is what I would say. Rankings, lists are useful to a degree, but they mask a lot of diversity, I think. There's an awful lot of diversity within the UK schools system. There are more options than you might expect. And as we said with the parent of a child student visa route, that's just one example of things that you might not be aware of if you're just focused on Eton and Harrow and places like that.
Right.
There's a lot more diversity. There's a lot more on offer. And every child is different, and so the what might be the right school for one child will be the wrong school for another child. So, do your research. If you can come to the UK, come and visit schools in person. And yeah, get support where you can. We're always obviously happy to advise about schools within our group. But there are lots of professionals within the sector who can provide that information as well. So yeah, do your research. Again, I know from speaking to Nigerian mums that you guys do your research because I'm always
Yeah.
asked tricky questions. But yeah, find out a little bit more about schools like ours, like day schools, and how that might suit your family.
Fantastic. Thanks, Neil. I love those tips you've shared. And for anyone who wants to get in touch to learn more about Cognita Schools, can you just share maybe how they can get in touch with you or who they should get in touch with to ask more questions?
Yeah, definitely. So if you go, one thing you could go to cognita.com/international, and there's a form there that you can submit your inquiry through, or there's contact numbers and email addresses there as well. My email address is Neil, that's Neil, dot Herrington, Herrington, at cognita.com. We do aim to provide a personalized service, and I'm very happy to be the first point of contact in that regard. And if it's not me who's best placed to follow up with you, then a member of my team, or we'll introduce you to one of our school team members as well. So yeah, very happy to hear from people directly.
All right, fantastic. So thank you so much, Neil. Thanks for having that conversation with us. Honestly, Cognita Schools, they sound like a fantastic group, and I think you bring something very unique, which is quite interesting. And definitely for quite a lot of Nigerian families, I do think considering this parent-child visa route is something to look into, because not everybody wants to send their children away to boarding, especially at certain ages. So it's great to have this as an option. Yeah. And when we post this, we'll put all your information as well, and links to your email and how they can get in touch with you, so that if anybody wants to learn more, they can do so.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Yeti.
All right. Thanks, Neil. Have a great day.
And you. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.